It's only mid-September, but it's already topsy-turvy in the ACC. Welcome into the Voice of College Football for instant analysis. Keep in mind that we go live with you each and every night throughout the week, Monday through Saturday, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, or post-game. Please join us for that. Georgia Tech with a walk-off field goal leaves Clemson with two losses, 24-21. Let's get to it. Will Helt with a whiff on Haynes King. We would see it over and over. Haynes King is a baller. He's a gamer, and he is the epitome of what Brent Key has built in Atlanta. Key himself a grinder, so is his team, and that's what they brought to the field on Saturday. Blood and guts, and they lay it all on the line. And again, it's epitomized first and foremost by Haynes King. Haynes King with the read, the first down. Haynes King delivers on a 3rd and 5 on the first drive of the ball game with a rush in his face. He is not the most talented passer you will ever see. It's not picturesque most of the time, but he led an early drive on down the field. But Georgia Tech with a 4th and 2 inside the 5 opted to go against the field goal. And a curious play call here as Ricardo Jones got the tackle for loss on Jamal Haynes on a screen pass. So Jones blew up the blocking scheme out on the perimeter, and Jamal Haynes did not have a chance. I would have gone with the standard run-pass option with Haynes King, one of the best in the business to do it on a 4th and 2, again, down near the goal line. So Georgia Tech has turned away this time. Clemson's got the football. Omar Daniels, we would hear his name called over and over and over again in this game. Exceptional player, made huge plays. His first one, a forced fumble on a big helmet hit on Cade Klubnik, and the fumble recovery from Zachary Tobe. Georgia Tech had the ball at the Clemson 30. Haynes King missed a 3rd and 3 throw that would have possibly gotten Georgia Tech deep into the red zone for a touchdown, but they kicked the field goal to make it 3-0. Another guy of note early in the ball game for Georgia Tech on offense, Isaiah Cannon, a guy that Louis Riddick, who was doing the game today, likened to Mike Evans. Canyon, 5 catches, 65 yards. Be looking out for him. He has a pro body type and skill set for sure for Georgia Tech. A couple series later, Clemson marched down the field, attempted a 52-yarder from Nolan Hauser, reminiscent of his 56-yarder to win the ACC championship game against SMU. This time, less pressure, but also he pushed it right, and we still had a 3-0 ball game. Then Georgia Tech goes to Eric Rivers down on the bomb. It was a beautifully lofted pass over his shoulder, over the defender, and Rivers brought it in. Only touched the ball 4 times, 1 rushing, 3 catches, 72 yards, but he made huge plays on this day. Georgia Tech took it in courtesy Jamal Haynes, who was really not a huge factor in this game for Georgia Tech. Back-to-back 1,000-yard rushing seasons for Haynes, but only 12 carries, 26 yards, but he gets a touchdown, and Georgia Tech led it 10-0. The much more physical football team early in the game really had Clemson on its heels. 185 yards for Georgia Tech's offense out of the gate, 73 for Clemson at this point. This was a 5-play, 65-yard drive. We're into the second quarter at 10-0, and then later 13-0. This was the key play of the game in regards to keeping Clemson in the game, because dominated to this point, only 5.5 left in the first half, and Georgia Tech had Clemson stopped on a 3rd and 22. Clemson with a give-up play, just a straight handoff, right tackle to Adam Randall. But the blocking was perfect. Maybe the Georgia Tech defense relaxed a bit, and Adam Randall ripped it off for 30 yards and a first down, get Clemson going. It eventually was a 15-play, 75-yard drive. Clemson got the touchdown to make it 13-7, and we had a ball game. Second half, Klubnik marches Clemson 7 plays, 66 yards down to the 9-yard line. Then the guy that we mentioned a few minutes ago on defense for Georgia Tech, he is a standout. Omar Daniels, safety, got into the pass lane, leaped up for the interception, played the slant perfectly. Klubnik did not see him or thought that he could throw it over him. It looked like the Patriots and Seahawks in the Super Bowl. Daniels picked it off near the goal line, went all the way back to midfield, and Georgia Tech in good shape, up 6 with the football. But the Clemson defense stood up. Avian Terrell with a blitz hit Haynes King knocked him back for a 12-yard loss after the fumble. Then we also had a sack on the next play from Sammy Brown, and Georgia Tech in prime field position had to punt. And then Clemson comes right back. Bryant Wesco gets into the action, turns the corner on a beautiful pass play to the sideline, just leaves the Georgia Tech secondary in the dust. 14-13 Clemson as Wesco goes 73 yards, 7 catches for $124 for the Clemson young wide receiver, who's one of the best emerging wide receivers in college football. Next time Clemson had the football, Amari Harvey with pressure prevents a wide-open touchdown as Cade Klubnik could not get the football downfield to a wide-open receiver. We had 8 minutes left in the third quarter at this point, and Clemson's third down miscommunication meant another big play was averted as Klubnik missed DJ Moore. And then we see that Clemson was dominating the football game at this point. So we talked about Georgia Tech's physicality early, the run game, Haynes King. The defense was overwhelming as Klubnik didn't have time to throw the football. But we went through a stretch from late in the first quarter until into the fourth quarter where Clemson outgained Georgia Tech 229 to -10. Clemson led at 14-13, though, going into the fourth quarter, and then Georgia Tech finally got the offense rolling because it had been dormant for quite some time. 13 plays for 90 yards, and Haynes King and Jamal Haynes accounted for 84 of the 90 yards on this drive, including a 27-yard pass play between the two. And Georgia Tech takes it in. Again, 13 plays, 90 yards, 21-14 Tech. And this started to turn into a bit of a back and forth as Clemson came right back. 13 plays, 75 yards for the touchdown. Klubnik initially hit Josh Sapp in the back of the end zone for the touchdown, but that was called back on the replay. But the very next play, Adam Randall up the middle for the touchdown with 3:26 left. We're knotted at 21. Klubnik really carry that drive, especially on the ground. 5 carries for 24 yards. Klubnik, a lesser version of Haynes King on the ground, but still a capable runner and effective on this day. All right, this sets up for the final drive. 3.5 minutes left in the game, tied at 21. Haynes King and Georgia Tech do not explode. They don't hit for big plays. They do what they need to do to get the job done. 10 plays, 38 yards. Grinded out kind of drive. A lot of Haynes King keepers, plus 2 key pass plays to Eric Rivers and Malik Rutherford. Haynes King, 25 carries for 103 yards. Passing, 19 of 27 for 216, so he accounted for 319 yards of total offense. Georgia Tech's got little time. They've got no timeouts. They've got the ball just barely inside the 40-yard line. They've got a third down, and Haynes King runs it for a key 2 to 3 to 4 yards, something in that range. And then here comes the fire drill. Adam Burr and the field goal unit out onto the field. They looked poised. They looked in sync. It looked well orchestrated, although it had to be quick. And the clock was ticking down. 8, 7, 6, and then they took their time. They didn't rush it. They knew that they had seconds on the clock. They executed, and of course, Aiden Burr had to be the guy to convert it. It looked like it might fade right, but it stayed inside the right up post, 55 yards, and Georgia Tech wins it 24-21. The Yellow Jackets are now 3-0, so these 7-6 seasons under Brent Key might be broken by this team that could compete in the ACC this season. Again, 3-0 for the Jackets. Take on Temple next week outside the ACC, and then back into conference play, taking on Wake Forest on the road the next week. For Clemson, still in play in the ACC with only 1 loss. But it looks like a narrow path, to say the least, to get into the playoff as an at-large. Now with 2 losses, 1-2 for Clemson, take on Syracuse. But look at these opponents down the line. Of course, Clemson could win all these games. However, to navigate SMU, Duke, Florida State, Louisville, and South Carolina is going to be mighty, mighty difficult. This Clemson team is not as good as many projected in the preseason. Not a top 5 team in the country right now. Barely a top 25 team. Georgia Tech, gutty, gritty, good defense. Omar Daniels on defense leading with the big play capabilities. And then what we see from Haynes King, they know who they are. They have an identity. That term comes up from time to time. Well, Georgia Tech, one of the teams in college football that we know what the identity is. Offensive line, Haynes King, opportunistic defense. Jackets are 3-0. Your comments and questions down below. Keep in mind, we've got a Clemson show and a Clemson channel. Check it out with our guys Jordan Bowman and Tiger Paw Craven. And then right here, the voice of college football every night, Monday through Saturday, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll see you next time.